Gotta say, if this is their first ever ROM hack, they really put in a lot of effort into this. If the title and thumbnail wasn't obvious enough, this is a Zelda-inspired ROM hack, and the story is one we're all familiar with, but with Bowser scheming something dastardly. I also gotta say, the custom logo prompt and file select screen really adds a lot while also displaying future gear you will acquire once you, well, acquire them. But in short, the story is to see what's up with Bowser once again and why he stole the Grand Star while making a barrier to keep these Toad citizens out. You know, same old, same old. So as you have seen from the gameplay so far, this Toad Town is a snazzy little hub area you can waste time before venturing out. You got this full camera control, even though the Y-axis is inverted, or maybe that could have been customized on my part to make it more relaxing and normal. And not only that, but you can save whenever you want, which is mind-blowing to me. And something I mentioned in previous videos about SM64 ROM hacks, you will ultimately need to stop lollygagging and go to one out of the two interiors in order to quote-unquote borrow a hammer mallet from the minigame Toad. Considering the Mario Story music and the aforementioned naming of the town, just like in Mario Story, you can use the hammer to break yellow blocks and complete many puzzles you need to solve in order to progress through a few levels. But before moving on, I love the added dialogue each NPC gives in the game. It's not only lore filler in a good way, but some have additional things to say after you've passed a certain point and certain thresholds within the story. Like this Toad that gave you a hammer just so happens to realize Mario is broke as he's forced to stay here as you run off because he's scripted and all he is a line of code. So, you know, that's pretty dark when you think about it. And actually talk to Peach and all the rest of the Toad, though it's not mandatory. And lastly about that, I like that they added a floating speech bubble and even the text box noises to simulate that they're talking. You really have come a long way from punching the same Toad to get its attention in order to talk to them. That's definitely a new thing that I really hope a lot more ROM hacks make use of. So in typical Mario 64 style, you'd usually expect a straightforward get the star and on to the next star act system. But instead, for this game, you'll go through trials. In order to complete their trials, get new equipment to help you traverse along your journey to stop Bowser. And the main areas you'll be going through is a lava area, underground sewers, which is very Mario-esque, and lastly, above the clouds to the castle in the sky. As mentioned before, this game is very Zelda-like in its execution and progression. The goal isn't too much as getting the stars, but getting the gear you need in order to complete said trials, which will grant you these 3 different colored orbs. Very, very Zelda-like. But I do have to warn you all as to not make the same mistake I did on my first playthrough, what probably many other people have done in their first playthroughs. See, the signpost in the beginning of the lava area is really vital to a puzzle later on into the level, which are these rock carvings of enemies you should definitely jot down for later. Just know that these little dudes aren't your ordinary Easter eggs, but sadly, like I already mentioned, I didn't pay attention to them, so instead I got the first power-up, which was the Minish cap, which explains the reason of why the title of the video is the way it is. Came to a point that I had no idea what it was I was meant to do in this room, and eventually I left just to see if I can do something else during the meantime of figuring out what it was I had to do there. I don't know how they implemented the tiny Minish Cap Mario into this. It did have its funny buggy moments, and another thing to add because of said moments is, once again, this is another ROM hack that has the teleport back to where you last stood mechanic with the cost of a heart piece and just in time to stop a bully. I love moments like these, I truly do. But ironically, that's where this area ended for me for now. Before I figured out the enemy rock icon puzzle, I made use of the Minish cap to enter the sewers. The area reminded me a lot of Tiny Kong's tiny sections in Donkey Kong 64, just with less attitude and more puzzles to figure out. At first the level seems and feels like it's going to be more straightforward, but I can promise you'll be scratching your head at times. But I will say though, I'd appreciate it if casual like ROM hacks don't force you into wall jumping segments with sinking pits below you. And with that, I continued my playthrough with save states. Yeah, I know, it's cheap, but I wanted the enjoyable experience this had to offer, not one that'll boot me back to town when all of the HP hearts are gone. But if it makes you feel better because of the fact that I use save states, the last part of this Seward climb, I got sniped twice by a bat and a shy spitter, and down the pit I went.
Mamma mia!
After struggling to climb in Zelda fashion, the equipment you get deflects the major trouble you had to face, which is a turtle shell you can call at will, or at least for like 3 seconds. It had its uses for not sinking, but the 3 seconds was a bit on the just made it in time kind of thing. But in the end, I eventually beat the second trial before the first. Went back to solve the lava puzzle, got that trial's power, checked on the store Toad who got his mean bean cuisine delivered, and with the power of the Minish cap, we nabbed it from the poor unfortunate Toad to continue on. And Mario really is a dick sometimes. I mean, the Toad entrusted you with the secret. But as I said earlier, I like the fact that Toads will comment in on stuff like the fact that I stole this Toad's bean. Mario really is a monster to these fungi. Bad enough that this one Toad is scared at Mario because of the fact that he's staring deep at him because he knows how he likes mushrooms, but another game, another time. For now, we continue on. Stepping outside, going to the dirt mountain in Toad Town grows a giant beanstalk, which leads to the castle in the sky as the last trial. Frankly, there's not too much to talk about this level as far as mentioning good things, and it gets really tedious in the enemy placement, specifically in places where you'll be at the mercy of the slowly moving platforms, where the wind dude just blows you off, and I don't want to know who okayed Electro Buzz guys in the sky while Mario slowly twirls his way to the distant platform, one twirl at a time. It'd be fine if they just went in circles around you, but these fuckers just go straight for you. So for me, when I played through it, I kind of wanted to see what was up with this window, especially considering it had like a little crack to it. So I decided, you know what, what's over there? I'll just try to see what that's all about. Maybe I might get an ability just to not be able to crack a glass window with a giant metal mallet. So eventually, after many save states, you'll go through some twirls, dodge a few lakitus, and then you'll become Mini Mario, then go back to the same window, which just so happens to have a tiny entrance crack. I honestly didn't enjoy anything about this area, and don't think about going to the top of the building either. There's literally nothing there, no Easter egg, nothing, not even a little cameo, it's just nothing. The level isn't over yet, because once you get the chest, the door to the actual castle opens up, and frankly the chest just gave you a useless ass feather you'll probably only use once. You gotta enter the castle, and get this, there's 4 more damn trials you have to go through. My God. So wind, fire, water, and electricity-based trials within a trial, and all except for wind are good. The amount of frustrations you'll get going through wind will make you develop hemorrhoids. It's that aggravating, and I need to remind you, if you haven't started using save states by now, this will definitely be the save state wake-up call for you. If you think the Cloud dudes were bad, and freaking Electro Buzz and the Lakitu dodging was bad, mamma mia. These fans, man. Only these fans, I swear. I don't know how much skill you would need to have in order to do this on your very first try, on your very first playthrough, but I'm sure some madman will make a task of this with frame perfection and all. But as I said, the others are pretty swell. Water level did have some trolly man-eating fish and a few breathtaking moments with how much underwater you'll be going through, but in the end, at least the Donkey Kong Country music was good and nostalgic. Not only that, but I got to see one of the fishes glitch out because of the fact that they were above the water, so they just ended up nose diving into the floor. So yeah, you're definitely not going to see that in the vanilla SM64. Did the electricity one next, and the random Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles music was also nostalgic for me. It was kind of weird, but it was strangely fitting for its factory industrial setting the level was going for, and I don't have many complaints for this one, especially with the fact that they used multiple layered floors because it had an elevator. And not only that, but like with the fixed cameras for the hydraulic press was a fine touch, which is kinda weird considering fixed camera is something you would think to groan about. A few wall jumping maneuvers to the same moving platform here and there while dodging the electricity bobs and the electric walls. It was a good way to end that trial. Fire one, which was the last one for me, which sports that F-Zero music as you make use of the turtle shell surfing ability while also grabbing magic jars with quick succession. Ironically, but gladly, I went through these 4 trials in the path from worst to best, and the final moment for the fire trial had that awesome feeling to it that had me feeling, well, awesome. Especially on that last rotating part where you gotta really manage out when to go, how fast you should go, and also trying to manage the whole magic jar getting, it really felt good. So after all that, all the orbs had been obtained. For some reason, I ended up running around Toad Town because the game didn't really specify how to remove the barrier that Bowser set up. So what you have to do is use your hammer to smash it. I guess that makes sense. We see Peach's castle. Bowser is off in the distance, out cold on his back. The atmosphere around is dark and gloomy. The castle lacks the color that it usually has. Bowser explains himself in the situation that led him to be on his back. Turns out that he was actually the unsung anti-hero in this hack and trying to keep the true villain at bay. So with no other choice left, Bowser gives up the star and takes his rest. As Mario makes his move to face the big bad, entering the castle, a figure sits. The door behind closes and the fighting commences. Yeah, it's just a fight with Ganon. It's a Zelda-based ROM hack. What more can be said? Ganon may only have a total of 4 movesets, but he's far from a pushover than Bowser would usually be. I can promise you, you'll suffer many failed attempts here. My best solution was to wait until he did the Ocarina of Time baseball swing with the mallet. Because frankly, that's the only move that he does that's the least risky, and you actually can manage to get 3 hits off of him, or 2 if you just so don't get the timing right, but it's still fine compared to the other ones. The bone throw, don't even try it. It's just, no, don't do it. The one where he summons up a triangle underneath you, it's fine at first, but eventually it gets progressively faster. And then there's the fire ball thing that he does. I wouldn't even recommend even trying that. Like, that came across as more of a bother, so don't even worry about that. Just hit the thing with the mallet, and trust me, you'll be fine. I will say though, because now that I think about it, kinda makes me wish that the 3 orbs you collect would have gave you extra hearts or something, like in traditional Zelda games. But as usual, in video game fashion, good overcomes bad, and the Triforce granting the wish Mario truly desires, which isn't miles and miles of Mama's ravioli and the spaghetti. So, you know, that's a good 0 out of 10 ROM hack for me, bucko. Besides the struggling need to rely on save states to avoid tediousness, this was a good hack, and if it wasn't for the banger music tracks in the hack, those raging moments where I eventually needed to use save states wouldn't have had too much to look over as a distraction. Would have just been anger. And considering it was the very first hack for these 2, just see this as the power the SM64 hacking community has for ideas and how far the hacking community really has come to. I originally encountered this when looking up Mario's Vacation 64's creator's work and checked out one of his videos from Mr. Wise Guy, checked him out, and then oddly enough he only had this one video. Still don't know why he only has 9 subscribers, definitely deserves to have more. I know if this hack was just as good as anything that they might be continuing on, I'm pretty sure they'll get a bigger following sometime in the future. But yeah, but more importantly, try it out for yourself. Link will be in the description as usual, and as always, morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Where you may reside, hopefully you're doing good, your friends, families, and loved ones in your life alike. If you're watching the video, like, comment, share, subscribe, and until next time, be easy, my friends. Peace out.